Okay, so you have to learn to walk before you can run. But before you can walk, run, blah, 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 there's a little bit more to it. There's, there's eventually in life, you got to learn the whole thing. You don't have to, or you don't have to learn anything. Actually, you don't have to do nothing. The only thing you have to do is enjoy your life. That's the only thing you have to do. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to be there for anybody. You don't have to help anybody. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be evil on the other side of it. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to. But on the other hand, you really shouldn't make up any stupidness and live in a delusioned world on the other hand. And we'll save that talk for another day. But because there's a lot of real blind, stupid faith that's masquerading as science. It's really funny, except that it's pathetic and sad. And so, but aside of that, you don't have to do anything. There's one thing though that does, you might want to think about limiting, limiting your annoyance. I mean, limiting how annoying you can be to other people. Or that's not the right way to put it. You might want to look before you leap sometimes. Not always, or you might want to think before you speak. Or you might want to understand a bit more of the conversation before you hold everybody back. I'll go back a little bit. There's only one real rule here, and that's don't get into anybody else's way. Stay out of everybody's way. Thou shalt not cock block. That's the only rule in life. That's it. That's the only rule. Thou shalt not cock block. Sunshine Express coming through. Get out of the way. I'm going to run you over. And that's the thing you should learn in life. And we had a situation on the channel. I'm just using it as an example off the top of my head. I wasn't going to it's not really the point. But whatever, where this person, she's an older woman, not to, stereotype or anything, but she's been around she thought she's been around intellectually for a while, and we used a comment called one-itis, or the one-itis, and she misheard it, and she didn't understand how that word was used in context, and she riled against it. She left all these stupid comments about saying, "Oh, Sonny, I'd never done that. I'd never do anything like that." But then she went on to explain herself, and her comments indeed said that, yes, she is like that. But that's why might have been why she was triggered, because, anyways, the one-itis, just to let you guys know as an example, means to have one-itis is to fixate on one person. It's where the one comes from. But she heard in her brain one night, and she thought that meant one night stands. And for some reason, she was triggered by it, obviously later on, because she was emotionally unfaithful to her husband and left him. She was emotionally unfaithful and she moved on. But, some people think fidelity is a physical experience, but fidelity is definitely emotional as well. Fidelity, for those who don't know, it's emotional as well. Emotionally cheating is cheating. Cheating is cheating, and you can color it all you want, but it still is. Just like intelligence is intelligence. Just because you fail your math test, and you can't walk around saying you're emotionally intelligent when you fail your math test. Stupid is still stupid. And so you can't say you're emotionally stupid, because stupid is stupid. And these things spill over into other areas of your life. So to splice the atom, you're still wrong. Anyways, let's get back to it. So that's an example of some person kind of running off with something without understanding the context. And it was used in context, but she didn't hear the context. She let the word trigger her, and then she went off into a tirade because of one word that she didn't understand. Can you imagine that? Now, imagine that. That happens all the time. All the time. So often on this channel, I spend a tremendous amount of time on this channel, and I spent a tremendous amount of time in hypnotherapy as a hypnotherapist, and as a hypnotist, unexplaining things or explaining language to people, explaining what things mean. We can't even get into a real conversation about anything because you guys are still don't understand. Your vocabulary is too thin to have that conversation. But neither here nor there. But this is what I'm talking about something else. So the first up, forget about that woman. That happens. People get triggered and they lash out at the world. We all do it. I do it too. But you should listen. If you don't know a word, you should, try and understand what it means and ask what it means. Hey, did you just say that? Do you mean what I think that means? No. Oh, well, my bad. Not, don't go wiggle. Anyways, let's keep the language clean. So that's, that's a common occurrence in the world, and it happens more often than not. And that's not dealing with, and that's happens, and that's on top of all the normal nonsense and wandering monsters and stupidness we have to go through. There's a whole world of spin doctors out there and people feeding you lies and stupidity and nonsense. They're like literally lying to you, they're verbally lying to you to keep their own little piece of the pie. This is on top of that. So the least you can do is figure out what's going on before you open your mouth. But that's not the point. The point is, very often in life, we learn a little bit of something, and then we run off and say, this is what we learned. This is it. This is it. This is the gospel. This is the gospel. Everything, and then they say everything else is stupid. And I had a comment like that on one of someone left a comment similar to that. Hey, Sonny, you don't know what she left it on a Venus video. She's like, Sonny, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't be a professional astrologer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, in my head, that video was me explaining, reading out the definitions from 6 other professional astrologers. So don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about when all I'm doing is telling you what other people said. Reading it verbatim. I get accused of reading stuff so often. Yeah, I read it. This is not my opinion. I'm telling you someone else's opinion. What a stupid. And then I go to her channel to look at it, and sure enough, she's a fledgling astrologer with 50, 60 subs, and she's trying to, do that. And it's just, but anyways, so, but I get that a lot in hypnosis as well, because the language that I use on my meditations is an advanced Ericksonian hypnosis technique that combines NLP as well. So in my hypnosis meditation, because I'm a master level hypnotist here, and so I'm not a fledgling hypnotist, I'm not a fledgling astrologer, and so I used to write for, anyway, so my techniques are a combination and an amalgamation of stuff that I've learned and incorporated over the years, because I'm a master level. That's what mastery is. And back when I was in school, that's what they said. They'd say, you take a little bit of this, you take a little bit of that, you put it together, and then you create your own thing. Then you're a master. And same with music. I when I was in music school all those years, I said, how come this guy's doing this? How come this guy's doing this? That's against the rule and this and that. And they said, well, that's the way it is. If you want to sound like this guy, it's what you do. This guy's a master musician. He does this kind of stuff. And so, but before you become a master, you really do have to study a lot of different styles and see where everybody's coming from. And I mean, you can debate and ask for clarity on someone else's perspective, and as a student, you should, but only an absolute, someone who is new at the education or learning process runs out and says, hey man, I can do addition. I'm really good at addition. And then suddenly think you can do calculus, or you can suddenly, survive an economics program at university with just being able to do addition, or to do basic astrology and think you can, be a professional, or basic tarot and think you'd be a tarot reader, or basic math and think you could suddenly design a bridge. You're an engineer. It's just stupid. Or you can, although many people watch a YouTube video and then act as if they behave as if they're doctors, and so. And then some, doctors think they're nutritionists, even though a doctor may have never studied nutrition. When I was studying at the National Guild of Hypnotists, they said there's a a chart, there's a graph, there's a chart. We look at it, they show it to us, and it's on the exam on how you're supposed to stay within your area of expertise. But that's not the point either. The point is, you should be wary of yourself. You should know yourself first. You shouldn't throw stones until you understand what's going on the other person's side. And this is an important topic to me, because when I was younger, I was one of those people who used to say, wow, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. When I studied, I really believed in it. And then as I matured, and I learned more, and I learned things that completely contradicted. I learned very solid theories and techniques that worked, they're very practical, that were contrary to other theories and practices and techniques. Just like Vedic astrology and Western astrology are different. This one particular person said ancient astrology. This one person said sidereal and tropical, blah, 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 blah. And then she goes on to say something about Chinese astrology, which clearly indicated she doesn't know Chinese astrology either. So the deal is, you should listen. Listen. And if you need clarity, ask for clarity. Maybe what you're saying is the same thing as someone else. You just don't know that because your spectrum of your vocabulary is too thin to understand that you're talking about the same thing. Or maybe it's completely different, and your vocabulary or your internal dialogue is too thin. It's undeveloped enough to understand what someone else is saying. As you develop mastery, you will learn many different languages for the same thing. Many different languages or ways of expressing the exact same thing. It's like in mathematics. At the beginning, you learn 1 + 1 = 2. But as you progress, if you study mathematics at university, you're studying proofs. And when you study a proof, you're learning the equation from every single possible variable. You're learning that one equation inside out, backwards, to solve for every single variable in the equation. That's what you're doing. But if you can't do that with what you're doing, then you're not really ready to argue with the teacher. And so it's just wasting time. But by all means, ask your questions and seek clarity. Just don't say other people are stupid or other people shouldn't be doing their things, because in reality, you're the one taking the glass. And that's the deal. And just because, and we're going to get these questions, similar questions today. I had questions the other day. Hey, Sonny, what about, I thought that someone said the North Node determines your life purpose or life path in this world. Yeah, not really. I'll explain what I think they were talking about. I'll tell you what mine. Hey, Sonny, is this what you're supposed to be doing? Is this how you get over heartbreak? Is this how you meet somebody? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. You can take what you want, and you can discard which is not relevant to your situation, and you can go on and live your life in your way. And that's not just mastery of your topic. That's mastery over yourself. It's developing your own opinion, your own thoughts. Because until you do that, you don't really have an opinion. You're just puking nonsense that you bumped into. Just because you walked into that's all you're doing. You're just regurgitating nonsense, or you're not necessarily nonsense. You just you don't have an opinion yet. I know you think you do, but you don't. You're just regurgitating what someone else said and someone else did. You have to go and do it yourself. And that's the action. So be cool. Don't jump. Don't be, like I said, like we always say here, don't throw stones, because people who have a mastery of the topic, they don't throw stones. They understand. The more you illuminate your spectrum of comprehension, the less you are to throw stones, because you understand. Remember, ignorance is what leads to fear. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to violence. Fear leads to hatred. Hatred leads, it all leads to violence, and verbal abuse is violence. So remember that again. Ignorance is the root cause of all this. When you understand, you understand. You're not going to complain. I don't do Vedic astrology, but like, I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to argue, and I don't say it's wrong, and so it's just something you should think about. I'm not a flat earth person. I'm ignorant there, but I know that I am, so that's I don't argue with it, because like I don't, I'm not, there's so much that I'm not in this world, and there's no reason for me to argue with it. And I would encourage you to follow a similar path. That remember, ignorance leads to fear, and I'll reframe that. I'll rephrase that. The ignorance leads to absolutely stupid actions. All right, everybody, be cool. Next, that was funny.